We're good? Okay. Hi, I'm Tommy Stanton, and today I'm going to be presenting on test-driven development of web apps in Node.js. Quick show of hands, how many of you have heard of test-driven development? Great. How many of you actually do that every day and make a point to do it? That's what I thought. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so we're talking about Node.js. That thing. Subject matter is TDD, test-driven development. A more generalized phrase for that is automated testing. Now, that sounds kind of boring, but it's not. Automated testing is less like checking widgets coming off of an assembly line, and more like programming giant robot arms to do your bidding. No. Thankfully, in Node.js, we have a toolchain for testing web applications, for instance, in this talk, and it's quite complete. We have Mocha, our test runner, Chai, an assertion library, Express, as mentioned earlier. In this talk, we're going to use Express to make the actual web app. That's the framework. And SuperAgent, our HTTP client that we're going to use in the tests, which apparently has this little guy as its mascot. Blame TJ. I don't know. Okay, so let's go through the basic TDD workflow. Most of you have heard of TDD, but let's just be clear on how it's going to go. Step one, write a test for a desired software feature. So you write the test first, not later. Okay. Step two, watch it fail miserably. Because you haven't written the feature yet, so I hope it fails. If it passes, you're doing something really wrong, or really right, I don't know. Step three, actually implement the feature. Okay, so you wrote the code. The test should pass now, right? Wrong. Watch the test fail again, possibly even more miserably. We're humans after all, so we make mistakes. Don't beat yourself up about it. Step five, actually fix the syntax, logic, whatever. Just get it to pass. Step six, watch the test. Pass. Green. So much better than red. Step seven, feel accomplished. You should feel accomplished because you made something red turn green. It's like being at a stoplight and you get to go. Good for you. Lastly, step eight, look over the unified diff. I hope you're in version control, and I hope you're using something like Git, and I hope you do git diff, and I hope you use git add to actually stage changes, look them over, and commit something nice and small. Each commit should have, if you're changing code, there should be something test-related that works, or you should be confident that existing tests will still pass. Okay, so let's talk about Mocha, the test runner. First thing in our toolchain. So this is Mocha's default behavior-driven development style. You'll notice these describes and its. The odd thing is there's no like require, like that's just the JS file, and I don't think about this anymore, but I realized, oh, it's kind of odd. And that's because you're going to run the JS file through Mocha, and those functions are going to magically be available. This is where the actual test goes, and by test I mean assertion. If the assertion is thrown, then your test failed. Okay, so let's talk about Chai, the next part of the toolchain. That's what's going to actually generate the assertions. So if you have a data structure like that, and an array with one object inside, you could write something like this with Chai's expect interface, which is the one I like and I use. And it reads very nicely. Expect people to be an array with length 1. Expect people to have the property, the first person's name, which is Alice. This is in the BDD style as well. So since we're doing Mocha's default BDD, I guess we'll do this style too. Okay. So that's just a quick refresher. How many have actually used Mocha or Chai? Okay, pretty good. So let's actually do something. So we'll start making a directory on our local machine in order to provide us a workspace. I like to do this unwritten convention of putting it somewhere in devel in my home directory. Devel being short for development, of course. Then inside of there, we're going to make a live in the test directory, where our tests and our code's going to go. Then we're going to use awesome GNU Bash history expansion because we're clever and we read the manual. Let's go to that directory like so. Yes, one person likes it. I'm the other person. Okay, so now if we use one of my other favorite shell things, tree, okay, we got nothing surprising yet. Let's keep going. So before we're writing code, we should think, we're writing Node.js, we should think in terms of NPM, that thing. You've seen that, hopefully. Keep a software distribution in mind when you're writing code. You want, the keyword being distribution, you want to make sure that someone else could easily get our web app up and running for themselves if they were given a fresh copy of the source code. So after they git clone your repository, it should be like 1 or 2 steps and they're good to go. To do this, we need an adequate level of organization and from inception, and that's just where we are. So we'll use npm init, which is handy to get us the package.json file. I'm not going to read these. I'm already reading too much. But you get the idea. You're John Doe. Use MIT or something open source. That'd be cool. Now let's see what that Q&A session with npm init did for us. Cool. We have a new file, package.json. That's the package specification file for our distribution. Okay. Look at it. That's what it did. Nothing surprising. That's nice. It's valid JSON. Now I mentioned the toolchain, so let's start bringing those in. Let's bring in Express and the 3 test-related modules. And if we look at it, I'm using tail in a very exact way here. There they are. Cool. I'm glad I didn't have to write that. Okay. Now we haven't even run the test yet, or the web app. But let's get going. All right. So the goal of this web app that I'm going to set for us is respond with hello world at the /hello path. Simple enough. It's just going to be a plain text response. Nothing fancy. No templates yet. Before we even think of doing such a thing, let's write a test where we request that path and assert the HTTP response. So this is not really a unit test. We're at a higher level. We're just like kind of mimicking a browser. Okay, so first code as a test. We'll start a file there. We're going to call it my app. So the test I'm going to name like that with the test.js extension. Let's start writing it. So we bring in expect, which I showed you earlier. We start writing some Mocha skeleton code. Now I want to just highlight there's a done floating in the middle there in the great abyss. That has to do with, most of you are familiar with Mocha, so you probably heard. It just has to do with, if the code is asynchronous, you need to have a done there. That's a callback to call when the asynchronous goodness is done. And we're doing HTTP requests, and those are very asynchronous, so we're going to need done. What do we fill in there? Well, we need to bring in our user agent first, the ferret weasel guy. And we can write some SuperAgent code. So we'll make a request on the hello path, and I want to point at the, sorry, go back one. The assertions here. That first one reads very strangely, expect error to not be okay. We just want to make sure that the error object is not okay. It's falsy. I don't want an error. And then we can check the response in a pretty standard way. Make sure it's HTTP 200, and we get hello world. Okay, I said base URL is in there, so we need to define that variable. So how about localhost 8080? That's boring and predictable. And I already went through that. Okay, cool. So I'm looking forward to failure. Let's run the test. Kablamo. Sample web app when requested a hello should say hello. Double callback. I don't know, that's Mocha. But the point is where I have it emboldened on the bottom, econ refused. That's that low-level error object. The node errors are fun. Yes. Okay, so we have our failing test. We did like the first couple steps of TDD, so let's write some code. Let's write the app. We're going to put the app there, under lit. And that's what it's going to look like starting out. Real simple. Bring an express, get an app object, define our first route. It's in the Sinatra style. Yeah, Ruby. Or in the Dancer style. Yeah, Perl. Okay, shout outs. There's a negative person. Okay. So the entirety of that is really just that line. An HTTP 200 with hello world. Now, before we go back and run the test, it's still going to fail because we had that base URL that was looking for port 8080, and it's not going to be running. We didn't write any code to do that. So we need a way to start it too. So after we make the app object, we'll also add this kind of boilerplate to use that app object of Express to create an HTTP server and start it up. And we're going to export those two. Those are going to be two functions in the app. All right, so we had that sort of thing. Add that, bring in the app, get the port, and start and stop it. These are before and after steps, similar to like start up and tear down, or and then like JUnit nomenclature. I anticipate success now, and I got it. Sweet. It is exciting. Not even colorful because it's slides. You'll see. All right, everyone with me? Not too advanced yet. Okay. So here's our next goal. We'll do another route that's a little more interesting, and we'll make use of a model, MVC. We basically did the V and the C, the view and the controller, so let's make a model. Just with some random names of people, and then we'll use those names at a /greetings route. And so before we write that code, let's write a test for the model that doesn't exist yet, and let's add some tests to that other test we started. Okay, again, we're going to write a test first. All right, so we're going to add a new test alongside that other one. He was lonely. Let's give him a friend. I get some random names up in here. So name database model, get random names. When given an argument of 3, should return 3 random names. So we expect to, we have a nameDB object up there, and then we'll expect to get an array of names like so. Call it get random names on it. Should be an array with length 3. That reads very nicely. We'll spot check the first one. Random names assemble! Fail. Yeah, we didn't write a module. Let's start doing that. Let's make the model. We'll add something under lib next to the my app. It's looking very symmetrical. It's nice. So we need names. This is going to be the model starting up. I'm going to export the one function, get random names. I know it's going to be an array, and I'm going to return it. So where can we find some random names? How about from the North American arcade classic, Mortal Kombat? Open Mortal. I compiled this yesterday and played it. It was pretty good, but it took a long time to compile. It's on SourceForge. Yeah, it's open source, guys. Cool. You can make your own player if you want to take pictures of yourself in front of a green screen. Okay. So yeah, back to Mortal Kombat in general. As you can see, there's a Mortal Kombat module up there. I found it on the NPM registry. I wasn't trying to find video game character names, but this interface just happened to be exactly what I needed. So let's do it. So there's a get method on there, and it's going to give us a random Mortal Kombat character name. Cool. I'm just going to use a for loop for now. Sweet. That worked. I don't know what it's returning at, but it passed, and so I feel pretty good. At this point, we've already made some commits because we have like a working web app and such. Now I would make a commit for the model. And then I want to highlight this is where TDD really shines. You have absolute freedom to refactor. Maybe a for loop wasn't the most elegant way to implement that. But the Mortal Kombat module was the most elegant way, I can tell you that. Since I've laid down a testing foundation, and it's significant I wrote the test first, I can confidently refactor the function. Still passing tasks would ensure that I haven't broken anything. Okay. Let's refactor with confidence. We have that in the for loop. How about we bring in Lodash, also known as _JS. It has a times function that's a little cleaner. I know, not like a huge change, but a little more readable maybe. Still passes? Oh yeah, it still passes. Let's do it again. I didn't realize until reading the documentation for times that it actually returns an array. So I don't need to like push something. I can just assign it directly. Cool, I saved lines of code. It's a bit cleaner. Run the test again, still passes. No harm done. How about again? What? This is some kind of, use the JavaScript script prototype like bind function. It makes it less characters, but really, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's cleaner, but hey, it still passes, so that's cool. let's go back to sanity and just use that. Okay. Okay, so we expect our friends to visit now. Let's get back to the web app. We have the model safe and sound. Now that we're confident in the model, we have the test and the actual code that we've come to the best implementation. Let's go back to the test for the web app. We already had an existing hello test kind of there. Let's write one for greetings. Pretty similar, first 2 lines. You know, hopefully there's no error. Hopefully we get HTTP 200. And then a little, slightly more interesting, I'm going to use the match feature of Express rather than just like a strict string, because I don't know what random names are going to be in there. You know, and I'm also going to expect it to be in a Oxford comma format because I like the Oxford comma. So it could be like greetings from Huey, comma, Dewey, comma, and Louis. So I guess that regex will do. Every regex is bad. I don't, you know. At least I'm not being greedy, right, guys? Right, pro guys in the front row? I mean, there aren't any pro people here. Yeah. Will we be greeted? No, not yet. We haven't written the route, so that's cool down there. Express has given us back 404 because we don't have a route yet. So we had the one hello route. Let's bring in our model, and we'll underscore.string has a related underscore JS. It has a 2-sentence serial function that gives us the Oxford comma goodness. What? Yeah. They get along, I think. Yeah. So yeah, get 3 random names, construct a sentence, send it over. Cool. Our friends are here. No. So expected Baraka, Scorpion, and Raiden to match greetings from. Oh, we forgot the greetings from. That's nice. So let's complete the sentence. We forgot to do some concatenation. Okay. Will that make it pass? Finish it. It does. Babyality. A crippling final blow. Behold the sweet taste of TDD victory. All clear. Let's just run all the tests. All clear. Thank you. Oh, okay.
Any experience with Karma and Jasmine, and if so, why Mocha and Chai?
Okay. Question was any experience with Karma and Jasmine, and why Mocha and Chai? I know in my workplace we used Karma for, that's more for front end. Is that correct?
Well, Karma's a runner.
Oh, it's a test runner as well.
Karma with Mocha. So Mocha is like a test framework, but Karma's a way to run JavaScript tests from the command line in a browser, which you wouldn't do with Node. So Karma's a way to like fire up a browser without actually seeing the browser. It's using pim.js.
Okay, so you had this gentleman up saying that Karma is a test runner for the browser. So since even though it's called JavaScript, we're talking about the backend specifically on a machine. So Mocha also I think, runs in the browser as well.
Karma
with Mocha.
Or Jasmine.
But if you're doing just Node backend, like in this talk, it's only going to be Mocha. Does that answer your question? And Jasmine is, I think, fairly equivalent to Mocha. It's just a little older, so it's maybe a little less hot right now. But I'm sure it's totally great too. I haven't used it myself. Any other questions? There's another one over here. No?
I'm not sure how does Node.js has any advantages over .NET development.
Oh boy. The question is, I'm not sure if Node.js has any advantages over .NET development. Does anyone want to answer that question? Sure.
I think we should talk about this app.
Yeah, I'll just mention, I mean, apparently the industry trend over the last year or so has been large shops using maybe .NET or Java moving to Node.js because they have quicker development time or shorter cycle because it's an interpreted language and much more dynamic language as well. So it's a completely different beast. Yeah. Any non-Microsoft related questions? Yes. Sir, in the front.
So it sounds like you were writing your test and then failing and then fixing it, and passing, and then committing. Right?
Okay.
So could you write the code and then write the test? And then commit it and still in the same block?
I planned it, and he's asking a very good question. Okay, the other question was, the observation was in this talk, we suppose only made commits after we failing tests, code, passing tests, then we committed. So there were a lot of steps in between. He's asking if we write the code first and commit and then a test later?
If you write the code and the test.
Development-driven tests.
Developer-driven testing? I'm slightly confused, but write the test first. Thank you, sir. It's so important to write the test first because when you write it afterward, there are a lot of things you weren't accounting for. You will surely run into bugs later. But beforehand, you have 100% confidence. Yes, sir?
I'll just help you answer that one.
Okay. Sure.
I would say if you write the test first, then it really makes sure that you formed the design of your code pretty well going into writing the code.
Sure, that too.
It forces you to think that way. Yeah.
So he said basically, if you write the test first, then it forces you to think more about design, which is great. Sure.
I'd love to know what your driving philosophy is in terms of how small or how large the test that you write, and what the best practice is there.
Okay. So the question was what should be a general question of what should the scope of a test be? How intricate do you get, or do you do it most of the tests we wrote here? The model test was intricate, but it was simple. The other ones were quite high up because it's just start up a server and fire off requests and have them come back. I think it's so subjective, so it's hard to give a good answer. And also there's code coverage tools, but I don't really find a whole lot of value in them because there's a high code coverage doesn't mean the tests are actually good or someone can read them. So ultimately, it's the human being writing the code has to have good judgment and also think about does this document what I'm doing? Do I feel confident? If another developer came, would he or she feel confident? So it's Sorry, I don't have a good answer, but it's very subjective. I ask myself the same question all the time.
Yeah,
so.
I've never kind of said that.
Same thing for you. Okay.
All right. Thanks. Good for Tommy.
Thanks, guys.